The recording has started, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chloe, and good afternoon all, and welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee Energy Subcommittee, being held on the 27th of January 2025. A couple of housekeeping rules, as always, with these virtual meetings. So, as we're all aware, the meeting will be recorded. So if you can make sure your microphones are switched to mute unless speaking, mobile phones to be switched to silent if you could, and obviously raise your virtual hand if you wish to ask a question or speak. If your virtual hand doesn't work for any reason, just wave frantically, and I'm sure I'll get your attention. But thank you for that. Moving on then to agenda item 2, we have declarations of interests. Do any members have any interest to declare? I can see Liz has put her hand up.
Yeah, and as always with these meetings, because my small consultancy works with community groups on a range of issues, sometimes those are community energy initiatives. So I've not got anything in the region at the moment on that, but just in case.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Liz. Chloe will note that. And Andrea, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just for consistency, I'm still a board member of the Swansea Community Energy and Enterprise Company, the scheme. So just raising that as a potential interest.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Andrea. That's appreciated, and Chloe will make a note of that. So on the assumption there's no more declarations of interest, we'll move on then to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 30th of September 2024. So these are here for approval. If any member has any comments on the accuracy of the minutes firstly. No, can't see any. So I'm more than happy to propose the minutes as an accurate record. If I could have a seconder, please. Alid, thank you very much for that, Alid. So just a show of hands really just to approve those.
Yeah, they've been approved, Chair.
That's great. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you very much. So on to the first substantive item then on the agenda, which is agenda item 4. So this is the Energy Subcommittee Programme Update. And this is the update on the regional energy strategy developments. So this will be a sort of a joint report presented by Darren Thomas and Laura Davis. So I think in the first instance, Darren, if I could hand over to you to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, I'm Darren Thomas. I'm the chair of the Regional Steering Group. And as Laura has also already been introduced, she is the regional manager on the energy side of things, and also around the table are other officers from the steering group in the respective authorities. We have had apologies from Jeff Bacon, who is the vice chair of this group. He's had some personal issues that he's had to attend to urgently today. If I take you through the report, Chair, the purpose of the report is to provide members of the CJC Energy Subcommittee with an update on the regional delivery for energy, and an update on the decision for funding for pilot projects, which were discussed in the recent CJC meeting. I'll take you through the report, if I may, Chair. So the local area energy plans, which are called LEAPs, contain a series of local and regional actions, and the LEAPs, you will recall, are the framework to deliver the regional energy strategy. As officers, as I mentioned, we meet as a regional steering group to coordinate the work of the local area energy plans and other energy work streams. And the Welsh Government has funded for 24 months the appointment of a regional energy team, which comprises of the energy project manager, who's Laura, and the 2 energy project officer posts. Those posts are employed within Pembrokeshire County Council, sorry, not Pembrokeshire, sorry, Carmarthenshire County Council, get that right. So in terms of the progress that the regional energy team and the group have been making, that progress is set out in detail in Appendix A. And I would, if you have any questions on that, members, I'd be obviously pleased to answer those specific questions, but I wasn't planning to take you through that appendix in detail. And the colleagues around the table on the from the energy officer side of things are here to answer some specific questions if you have them. What I did want to talk to you about was the updates on the individual priority schemes. So there are 3 specific schemes. The first one is the South West Wales Solar Together project, and the details of that are set out in Appendix B. And this is a scheme which is aimed at homeowners with sufficient funds to make the investment in order to look at upgrades for renewable power, and in particular interested in installing solar PV. This particular initiative requires some funding, and we took a report, or a report was taken to both scrutiny and the main corporate joint committee in the last couple of weeks, looking for funding for 27,500 in 25-26 and £3,000 in 24-25 to cover the costs of something called the Memorandum of Understanding. When this proposal went to scrutiny, it was actually very well supported. There was no significant pushback, and in fact, I think the members in scrutiny were very supportive of it. And when it went to CJC last week, the funding was approved. So this is a very positive step forward. And it's pleasing to note that there is such support for this initiative. So what's been happening in the meantime then is that the procurement route for this initiative, that's being managed through Carmarthenshire County Council as the lead body, and something called a Memorandum of Understanding is being developed to take this forward. And the market engagement prior information notice, the PIN, was activated on the 7th of January 2025. I will come back to Laura perhaps at the end in case she wants to add any further details on this, but I'll just finish my part of the report first, if I may. The second priority scheme that we've all been working on is something called the Regional Retrofit Behavioural Change Project. And that is explained in detail in Appendix C. And again, if you have any questions or queries, or Laura may want to add some further detail when she comes in at the end. And then the third project is the cross-boundary sharing of EV charging infrastructure between local authorities and wider public sector. That has had previously quite positive engagement and discussion at scrutiny level as well, and the positive sort of benefits of working together regionally on that have been recognised. So, Chair, that sets out the broad bones of the report. Just before I hand over to Laura, to note that the recommendation to you is that members note the progress updates on the energy work stream and the solar group purchasing initiative, and also that the decision made at South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee on the 21st of January for the funding. So I will pause there. Very happy to take any questions from you or any members around the table, Chair. But I'll just bring in Laura. Sorry, I can see Councillor Lewis has put her hand up, but Laura as well, if she has any observations to add. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren. Just before I bring Laura in, I can see you've got your hand up, Andrea. So
I'm happy to come in after Laura, Chair. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Laura, over to you if you've got anything to add. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, mainly the situation we are in the at the moment is the PIN is closing on Tuesday, so we'll be looking at the responses to that, and then all going well, we hope to make a direct award because we're only expecting one applicant to fulfil all of the criteria we put in that PIN. But obviously we'll make that call when the PIN closes. We're still ongoing in discussions with the our legal team and procurement team in Carmarthenshire as opposed to the route that we're going to take, and it's likely that we'll now follow Cardiff City deal, which are a couple of weeks ahead, and they're now going to attempt to produce an agreement which is jointly signed by the 4 local authorities equally, so that sort of responsibility is shared for their own. I think that'll answer there's concerns that Carmarthen don't feel they're able to appoint on behalf of other local authorities because of their own procurement rules. So there are a few things to iron out in that regard, but we're really hoping that everything needs to be basically signed off and contracts signed by the 20, I think it's about the end of April. At that point, there will be purchases made by the supplier in terms of the Experian marketing data, etc. There will be a letter to agree the text of, which will go out from the local authorities with the local authority branding on. We expect that to be done sort of in May time, and then there's a sort of 12-week period then when addresses will be targeted. There will be a sort of social media campaign and a website campaign, so that people who don't get the letters can still sign up to the scheme. You know, it's a bit potluck sometimes with that sort of direct mail, whether people you know, read it when it does come in, but also there'll be some that won't, that, you know, as obviously will be missed. So there will be opportunities to sign up separately through the website of the scheme. So we hope that councillors will also promote the scheme at that point as well, to make sure that the sort of knowledge of it is as broad as possible, and to give people confidence that it's a, you know, that the council are on board with the scheme. And then we expect first sort of installations through the scheme after the sort of auction has been run, to drive, which is the purpose of which is to drive down price and give everybody a fixed price, so everybody pays exactly the same for, you know, if they were getting a 12 panel on their roof, you would get the same price for that 12 panel set of solar panels. So then we expect installations from October to the first quarter in 2026, and then that will be the end of that first year of the scheme. And then hopefully, if that's successful, then we will run it again then for future, I think up to 5 years potentially. So we're hoping that, you know, each local authority would be looking at you know, an additional 100 properties, with putting on solar panel and potentially batteries and EV chargers. So it's just sort of eats into those targets we've all got in the LEAPs for increasing renewable energy across the region. So that's sort of basically where we are. So we've just got about 2 months of work to get the contract agreed with the procurement and legal teams across the local authorities.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Laura. Sounds a very exciting project. I see Liz has got a hand up, but Andrea, you wanted to come in, I think, previously.
Yes, please. Yeah, it's. I think the direction is excellent. You know, the direction of travel that we're going with this. I think there's just one thing that I wanted just to ask where this would fit in. And I recently went to the Tyre Arcade project launch for the pattern book for highly energy efficient housing in Wales, and combining our procurement powers in terms of house building, which I think, you know, impacts all of us certainly in this region. And I just wondered, I mean, we've only just literally launched last week, but I'm thinking, where can this fit in with our forward planning? Because there's huge benefits, I think, to be taken from that approach. And I think as a region, if we collaborate, not just as local authorities, but as all social landlords pulling together, and even private sector and construction industry pulling in the same direction, asking for the same things, bringing that economies of scale and bringing savings towards our construction of new homes across the region. I think there's definite benefits to be gained from that. So my question, I guess, is when it's appropriate, how can we fit that into our forward planning?
Thanks, Andrea. Darren, are you able to answer that?
I can start it, and I can see Laura's put her hand up as well. So a few things from me. First of all, as I mentioned, we've got the local area energy plans, and so these priority actions are the start of things, and there are other actions in the plan that the group will be starting to bring forward and take forward. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of actions, and so we've been doing some thinking as a group of how we further prioritize actions and bring them forward, and that will come forward over the course of this year probably, and perhaps into next year. But that's the first point, that there are other things to consider. But one of the actions that we've been looking at so far this year is we in our work program as a officer group, we've got we want to meet with colleagues from the housing side in each of the local authorities to have some further discussions around points you were just raising there, Councillor Lewis. So we haven't got all of these points tied up yet, but hopefully we've got some actions in train to start pulling together, and your input there actually is really helpful and timely, and works with what we're saying as well. So I'll bring Laura in as well, if that's all right, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Darren. Please come in, Laura. Thank you.
Yes, I would also add, we're also working with HAPs as well, Homes as Power Stations. They've got, one of their key roles is developing local supply chains, and also looking at bulk purchasing for renewable technologies, maybe even trying to bring a producer of something like air source heat pumps into the region. So we've actually got the supply chain in the region also. But yeah, as Darren said, we've got actions with it. There are specific actions within the LEAP about looking at bulk purchasing through RSLs and local authority housing. But I suppose, yeah, this is very much on the sort of private residential domestic scale. But I think, if we are to deliver the LEAPs and that decarbonisation by 2050, we've got to work at a much bigger scale and a bigger pace. And it's creating sort of getting strategic funding in to tackle sort of social housing on a much bigger scale is what we need to be looking at, and hopefully that's the sort of thing we'll be bringing forward in the future. Having the support to do that is vital, because we need that will as well.
If I can come back very quickly on that, I'm really reassured to hear that, and anything I can do to help support, please just let me know.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you both for answering that question. Liz, you've got your hand up, so please come in.
Yeah, I was just curious, well, not curious, I was interested in the whole aspect of behavioural change, which is used as a term here. And I just wonder what sort of mechanisms you're using for monitoring or evaluating behaviour change, because just the investment in the property doesn't actually equate to behavioural change for the homeowner, for example. It could be argued that just making it warmer might encourage, making the energy cheaper might encourage people to keep their houses warmer, and therefore using the same energy. So I was just wondering how you're going to evaluate behaviour change.
Yeah, I mean, there's two projects that we're running. There's the group purchasing solar scheme, and then there's a retrofit behavioural change project, and that is all about providing sort of people access, providing our sort of residents access to good quality impartial advice, because I think that's what's lacking, particularly with people who are qualified for Eco4, for instance. They get the technology installed in their house. Very often then the installer disappears and they don't know how to use it, to its maximum efficiency. Okay. So the other project that we'll be putting in a grant application to the Climate Action Fund is to employ additional capacity at sort of our community energy groups across the region, for them to be able to provide that, and also with signposting from the local authority teams as well, to be able to provide that retrofit. So it's not just energy advice, but actually people going into their homes, giving them a free retrofit assessment, and then telling them what they should do, what they should focus on, what those benefits are, and then also to help them find a supplier that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I suppose my question was about how you evaluate that's been done, that advice has been acted upon, if that's been factored in at all, because whether having received advice, signposting, whatever, households actually act on it.
Yeah, we will be. I mean, the organisations we work with already do that kind of evaluation. So we will use their experience in taking that forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's like Kumarian and Amanal Towie, you've done a lot of retrofit assessments, so we will be taking advice from them.
Mind if I just come in there,
Chair? I was going to say, before I bring Alan in, you coming down, please. Yeah.
Well, only to add, and actually Laura just covered at the end there. I mean, obviously in the Appendix C, where the behavioural change project is referenced, it's got some of the measures, and a lot of those measures in terms of appraisal or assessment are going to be qualitative, and that's why Laura was referring to picking up on the experience of the providers that we hope to be working with when we're doing the evaluation. So I suppose the truthful answer is we've got to work out in detail that sort of evaluation matrix, but we have got some ideas of the sort of areas that we want to be looking at, and the experience from the providers to help us finalise that thinking. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darren. Happy, Liz? So a thumbs up there. So happy with the answer? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Alid, I'll bring you in now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just quickly on Appendix B, the EV project on homes. I was just wondering the potential there for a seminar for members. I'm not sure if other councillors are facing the same issues with us on the Eco4, but I'm receiving a lot of correspondence from colleagues not understanding the role of the local authority in that scheme, and it seems that installers seem to be using the local authority as an excuse of why things aren't being delivered as they should. So possibly, just as we roll this out, I'm all in favour of this. Some kind of a seminar in Carmarthenshire, definitely welcome it, but possibly for the others as well, if you're facing the same issues as us, just so that they're informed of our role in the solar PV and what constitutes the local authority's responsibility after those connections have been made, so that bad news doesn't come back to us. So that was the first one. And on Appendix D, the cross-boundary, we're doing a project at the moment, working with the Public Services Board, seeing where we can share depot facilities for EV. And I can see there's some potential cross-boundary between the local authorities, but there's potentially even more for some of those PSB partners, Hywel Dda or NRW, to be using as well. So I'm happy to share with you the findings of our work once that's completed.
That's great. Thank you very much, Alid. Laura, come back on that, please.
Yeah, in terms of the group purchasing solar scheme, there will be a kick-off meeting in each local with the comms teams and the energy staff at each local authority. And there, I mean, the company who we're expecting to come through the PIN have run these in local authorities across, and they've got a really quite complex communications plan, and hope to make explain the scheme to councillors and use councillors as a way of pushing it out into their communities as well. So we will be giving you as much information as we possibly can, so that you can be the sellers of the scheme as well. But yeah, no, I take your point about the Eco4. It is a bit challenging because it ends up with the council, but yeah, it's not the council's responsibility to deliver, but they have to sign off a piece of paper during the process. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I mean, no, it's Graham Harris in Carmarthenshire that deals with Eco4, but I mean, if you want to, I can come back to you afterwards to talk about what we could do in Carmarthenshire, if that would be helpful. And then in terms of the cross-boundary charging, what we were trying to do is very much trying to pick out the sort of practical challenges of the ground, of taking a car. I mean, at the moment, what we have now, we've got a vehicle from Swansea has been charged in a Neath charging facility using a DFT card, and we're now just going through the process of how that gets charged back on the sort of invoicing system. We've been talking to Johan, I think, who's running the project through the Metro, on the EV project through the Metro, which I think is that your project is involved in as well, the Metro taking that one forward, Alid?
Not that I'm aware of. There's a small working group of Public Service Board, Carmarthenshire Public Service Board members meeting to see the technicalities and back office structures that need to be put in place to get, for example, Hywel Dda to use our depot for charging, etc.
Okay, yeah, no, well, also the Metro are now taking forward a much broader feasibility study of doing sort of exactly that, in terms of looking at all of the public sector and what is the best way forward in the future, so that we're not all investing individually in upgrading our depots when we could actually be pooling those sort of resources across the region. So that is sort of, there is a project being taken forward by the Metro, and our initial pilot just looking at the challenge, exactly those challenges of what software because very often different local authorities or different bodies are using different software for their chargers, where the compatibility issues are, etc. And then that will feed into the Metro's much bigger scheme of looking at the overall investment sort of future for EV infrastructure in the region.
Thanks very much, Laura. Darren.
Yes, thank you. And where Laura was talking there this also overlaps with the regional transport plan side of things. So I sit on the transport side of things as well. And so there is tie-up. That was quite convenient actually between energy and transport, because you've got a chief officer in both camps. But obviously the proposals in terms of vehicles is being taken forward through the RTP side, and this coordination between the two groups. And the only other piece of information to note is that like yourselves in Carmarthenshire, Pembrokeshire PSB, which I sit on as well, they're also aware of this, and there is interest in it from the PSB side in Pembrokeshire as well. I don't think we're as far advanced as you are in Carmarthenshire, Councillor, born over from what you said, but it's certainly something that we've been considering. I can see now Dan West from Pembrokeshire, our energy officer, has put his hand up, so I'll let him come in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just to add on to that is that we've spoken about it, and we've got, you know, the likes of Hull Health Board and Mid and West Wales Fire, which I think it seems like, if, from my point of view, if all the PSBs are trying to do that project separately with the same core regional groups that aren't local authorities, it seems like it's better fit to go through the regional transport group doing that. And I think that's the Metro project that you mentioned, wasn't it, Laura?
Okay, thank you, Dan. Ali, does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I will raise this conversation with officers who are working with the PSB project right now, and see if we can make some connections, and so that we're not duplicating, and we can share our learning so far and piggyback on the other work that's going on. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Ali. And with the sort of solar together, I think the idea of seminars and with the charging points and everything, probably good to get it out there to the wider membership and the constituent authorities, because obviously we can disseminate then to our residents. So I think that's a very worthwhile suggestion, as I'm sure Laura will pick up on that going forward. Do we have any other comments then on this particular item? No? Okay. So the report is for noting. So just again, for completeness sake, I'll read out the recommendation, which is that members note the progress updates on the energy work stream and the solar group purchasing initiative. Appendix B, project outline of the South West Wales Solar Together initiative, subject to the decision made at the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee on 21st of January 2025 for funding. Obviously, as Darren has outlined, that funding has been agreed at last week's meeting, which I attended. Report for noting. Do we need a proposer and seconder for this, Chloe?
No, that's fine, because it's just for noting purposes.
Okay, well, just a show of hands then, if we're all happy.
Yep.
Yep, that's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so moving on then to agenda item 5, which is the forward work programme. So I'll just get the report up here. So that just shows one agenda item for the April meeting, which is the update on the regional energy strategy delivery. So again, that would be a report for information purposes. So are we all agreed on that? Any other items that anybody would like to have on the meeting? No. Okay, just to show of hands then, if we're all in agreement to note that. Thank you very much. So that's carried. Final agenda item then, any urgent items? I've got no urgent items being reported to me. Chloe, anybody have anything urgent, anything from yourself, Chloe, comes through?
Nope, no urgent items, Chair.
Okay then, well, no urgent items it is. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Can I thank you all for your attendance, particularly thank officers for their hard